Good evening, Mike. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Evening, Mike. After falling behind 14-3 yesterday, can you just talk about how your group responded to that? Was it strategically? Was it more just honing in, just kind of the response after that and how they played for the remainder of the game?
Well, they obviously stayed focused because we got back on track quickly. The drive that had happened, the opening drive of the game, we made them earn it going down the field, and so our guys, I think, had a better feeling after that drive that things could get corrected because they were just, they're getting, they weren't big chunks. They were just, but it was about a dozen play drive or so. The second, obviously, the big play, the touchdown that went long, that can set you back, but I was very impressed. Our guys, it didn't faze them. They came back after that, and obviously, as we all well know, they played very well the rest of the game. Look, I was a little concerned, as anyone would be, when those two things came off the bat, because it kind of felt like, what we've faced from time to time this season, but it hasn't been us lately necessarily, so it surprised me a little bit, but we did give up the play. But look, they responded very well, as we all well know. And turned things around pretty quickly, so it was good.
As far as an individual performance, what did you think of what Randy Gregory did yesterday, and was that his best game since he's been back here?
Well, it was his most productive game for sure, and probably his best game for that reason, but he played very well. He was very active throughout the game. Played with a lot of energy, was flying around doing things. He touched the ball, I think, 4 times in the game. And one of them, was a fumble that we got back, but he had a batted ball, and he also had 2 other caused fumbles that we didn't recover. Created pressure on the quarterback. I think he had a sack, if I'm not mistaken, a sack and a half. So look at it, he kind of goes without saying. He played very well. That was a good thing.
I'm sure you knew about his physical measurements, just dating back to the draft, but did you know about his relentless nature? It seemed to go along with that speed. He plays with a relentless passion.
I remember I was at San Diego when Randy came out, and I remember he came to town. I interviewed him because I was coaching the linebackers there at the time, and so I've known about Randy for quite some time, as most people have. He's been out for, I think, a few years. He hadn't played much until, I don't know what week it was. He came back this year and started playing for us. As it would for anyone, it takes a little time to get back into the swing of things, but not only football, but obviously you got a whole new system you got to learn in the process. And, he's been very impressive throughout the whole thing. Randy's kind of a quiet guy, doesn't say a lot, kind of just takes care of business and goes about his own way. But he certainly did a very good job yesterday in the game, and, had a lot to do with our victory.
Also, you talk about the scheme, the way you use CJ to spy on Hurts and how that impacted their ability to make plays.
Well, we talked about using CJ, a few times this season in the same capacity. And for one reason or another, it just didn't happen. But I thought yesterday was a good time, and we got some real good downs out of it. If he didn't chase him down, it was nice to keep him in the pocket. And I think after a few times that he saw that CJ was chasing him down, I think it kept the quarterback in the pocket more often than we'd like to think, just because he knew if he got out of there, he was going to get run down quickly. Because a lot of teams have a player that they put assigned to the quarterback, but CJ was pretty unique in the fact that he can get on you real quick, and that makes a difference as opposed to just having someone who's athletic and can run well that doesn't really know how to do those things. And CJ's got kind of a natural knack for it because of what he does in the kicking game. But I thought he did an outstanding job. It really helped us a lot on the third down because, like I said, it either kept him in the pocket or when he got out of the pocket, it was somebody on him pretty quick. And CJ did a real good job with it.
Mike, it's your 3rd straight game with at least 3 takeaways. again, those fourth quarter interceptions. How much do you think the rush and cover were working in tandem in that fourth quarter? And what did your defensive line do to set up those plays?
I thought it was working well. Obviously, the coverage and the rush. We just talked about the rush a little bit. I thought that that gave our linemen the freedom to get after the passer much more than they normally would. A lot of times in a four-man rush against a quarterback like that, you're working so hard on keeping them in the pocket and everybody long-arming and keep them on your inside pad and all these coaching points. But it's really difficult to do when you just do it, when you don't do it every week. And the discipline that goes with it is really hard for a pass rusher when he's thinking he's trying to get to the quarterback on one hand. On the other hand, he's told, well, just make sure he stays in the pocket. There's a little bit of a contradiction in that statement, when we coach that, and everybody coaches it all the time. But with having CJ back there doing it, he was doing, the rushers were allowed just to kind of pin their ears back and go after the quarterback, and it worked well for us. That combined with the coverage, I thought on the back end, the guys did a good job. We had a couple guys get nicked up. DT came out. We had to kind of manufacture some things and put Jordan Lewis back at safety. We had to do a couple things back there, but with the exception of the one pass interference that I'm sure Jordan would like to have back, I thought all the guys adjusted well and did a good job on the back end. I thought it was a good day for the back end.
And on a different note, on that 81-yard touchdown by Deshaun, where do you wish secondary was, or what was the issue there in the coaching points going forward to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'm not going to say who, what, whatever, with that stuff. But I will say that it was a combination, to be honest with you, of the fact that Jackson's extremely fast, and combined with we lost leverage on the receivers. But it's something that we needed to address anyway. And going forward, I think we'll play it much better as weeks come. As this week goes. I guess it's the only one we have for sure. But it was just like I said, it was a combination of losing leverage on a receiver and just the fact that a player with his speed and all can do that to you pretty quick. So you have to play him a little differently.
What were your thoughts on how Sean Lee performed in his, I think, most extensive action he's had for you all year?
Yeah. Sean's done a good job. You talking about all year or just the game? Or really it's the same either way. Look, Sean gives us tremendous leadership when he's on the field. That's a big part of to me, that what we get out of him. He's got great intensity. He's very focused. If I'm a player that plays next to him, I know that he's accountable. I know that I can do my job and not worry about having to correct somebody else's job. And that's a big part of playing. It's having confidence in the guys around you as well. And that's what he does. He gives us that, and along with, I think his play has been good, and so he's done a good job.
How strange is that this week you're preparing for the same divisional quarterback that you faced earlier in the season? You're not seeing a new guy or a backup or whatever. It's going to be Daniel Jones.
I'm sorry. The question was, what's it like to see the same quarterback twice?
Yeah. How strange is that? I don't know if you've ever had that situation where the two of your division opponents have had started two different quarterbacks against you guys, and this is the first time you're seeing one guy again that you can look back and see him play against you earlier in the year.
Yeah. Like it's. I don't know. I don't know really how to answer other than just to say, look, you face, in your division, you typically face the same guy twice. And I don't. It's just. I would say the biggest thing for him is he's still a young player. That's kind of. So as it would be with any young player, as he develops and gets better, you learn more and more about him as a player. The real key is our players who have faced him before, and how it affects them. So and that's why it's really so hard, I think, in the course of a year to beat a divisional opponent twice, because you know each other so well. There's not the unknown that kind of gets guys in trouble a lot of times, and it really allows for the players to play each other without reservation, much more so than it does when you're playing somebody only once a year and maybe only once every 4 years.
mentioned, sorry about that. You mentioned earlier that after the 2 quick scores, you were a little worried just because of where you guys have been this year as a defense. I assume you're alluding to you've been under siege at times this year. Mm-hmm. What were those conversations like at 14-3, and how do you feel like the response was?
That I believe that one of the key things is giving them a good picture of what just went down so that they don't feel like the dam is breaking. In other words, on the long drive, we went through the runs and how they punched a hole in us a couple times on the run. And then I believe we had a penalty on the second play of the drive that gave them some yards, little things so that they can kind of put some meaning to what happened as opposed to sitting down and going, what is happening? That was the key on that drive. And the long pass, I think that obviously sitting them down, it wasn't hard to cover that one with them either, but it's just that emotion that goes with it, I think, for the players sometimes, but it didn't happen yesterday at all. I thought the guys played very reassured that they would go out and play well, and it was evident by what they did. So, they impressed me with the way they handled the situation. There was no blaming or looking over the shoulder, but there hasn't been all year, to be honest with you. They've hung in there tough in difficult times, and like I said, I thought it was, it speaks to their to their ability to stay focused yesterday when it was 14-3.
And what's this like for you? And what's been a tough year for your defense to have a chance to prepare here for at least a shot to go to the playoffs?
I'm sorry, you say what's it mean or what's it?
Yeah, what's it like for you as a coach when it's been a difficult year like that? You're sitting here week 17 and you've got a chance to prepare these guys for a shot to make the postseason.
Well, we said all along we wanted to finish strong, and as any team would, you want to play your best football at the end of the season, and hopefully that's what we're doing with this 3-game winning streak, and it'd be great to win this last one and let the chips fall where they may. If we get an opportunity to play again, that would be great. I think that's a little bit of motivation for some, but I believe the way our guys have played the last 3 weeks, I think they've shown that the playoff picture is not the only thing that would motivate them to play well. And because I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, that wasn't, even though you knew you were in the hunt, you didn't, there was other things we had to focus on to get on track. But like I said, they've played well for the last 3 weeks, and I expect them to do it again this week. Personally, I think our guys will play well. Hopefully, we come away with a win.
What do you guys call the personnel grouping that involves CJ Goodwin, or the one you guys used yesterday? And that's the second part of that. How different was that wrinkle to previous schematic approaches that you guys have taken when facing athletic, mobile quarterbacks that you faced this year?
We call it CJ, and how often you do something like that. Look at every quarterback poses different problems. Nowadays, there's more running quarterbacks than there was, 10, 15 years ago, but then they're all a little different, and they all have different. I would say that Hurts was much more like Taysom Hill than he was like the fellow at Arizona. There's a big difference between these guys who are mobile. Some of them are big and strong, and some of them are smaller, quicker. So I would compare them to that. So each one of them is a different challenge is probably the best way to say it. Each one of them has a little different level of understanding the passing game as well. All of them, the guys that have the legs, that's quite a, that poses an added problem to any defense because of the extended plays. But like I said, it's all on an individual basis from a quarterback standpoint because they're not all the same. Like I said, some of them are better passers than others, and some of them have better legs than others.
And what was the plan for the rotation at right corner? Obviously, with Anthony starting and Cheeto coming in there on the second drive, and what dictated the usage there?
We're just doing it either by series or we're doing it by personnel grouping, and it's been a case of both, to be honest with you, because we've had both. Or not, AB didn't get nicked, but I know Cheeto got nicked a little bit, and so it's an inconsistent operation only because guys have been getting banged up and stuff at times, but pretty much that's what it is. It's if it's not by personnel, it's by series.
Mike, in this rematch with the Giants, it'll be the second time that Jason Garrett is calling plays against your defense and veteran players that he knows so well. In that first game, could you tell that did he call things differently or attack players in different ways because of that kind of knowledge? Or is that something that maybe we in media or casual fans put more into it that, oh, this coach knows these guys so well?
I don't think you're putting too much into it. I think it means a lot to a coach that really knows the players. I think that's a real key to some guys because if a person really knows how a player's makeup, not only his physical makeup, his top end speed, his ability to cover someone, for example, in a coverage area, or even a guy in the trenches, how tough is he? Do you want to double team him? There's a lot of things to it, but I wouldn't underscore that by any stretch of imagination. I think that's really vital sometimes when you really know people because you can attack them with your running game, with your passing game, and you can match your own people from an offensive structure standpoint. You can always match your people against the defensive guys and get what you want. Defenses are a little bit more in a reactionary mode because obviously they get to put the people on the field and call the play. So we have to kind of take it as it comes, as opposed to they get to play the first card. But I wouldn't. I think it's, like I said, I think it's something. I don't know how much he used it, but I think any coach that knows the players like he knows them probably thought in certain situations he had something designed for based on what you're talking about.
That being said, what countermeasures do you have for that, if any?
Well, one time doesn't make it a tendency in a game. So if something's happening repeatedly, you can know whether it's to a player or whether it's a scheme thing. And in every game plan you go into, when you go in at halftime, that's typically what you're always talking about is the repeated, plays and where they hit, who they were attacking, and all those types of things. So, and that'll happen again this game. It happens every game. I mean, that's when people talk about halftime adjustments and things like that. That's really where that comes from. If you're, if somebody's attacking you some way, you got, and it's working, you want to be able to diffuse it. So that's what you do. And if it's a player that's getting hurt, you have to help that player. I guess a good example would be our Cincinnati game. We had a lot of injuries in the secondary, and we had to adjust, not because of our opponent so much, but just because of our own injuries. Those things kind of happen. So that's a little bit from a defensive. I mean, that's something that happened to ourselves, but it's the same type of thing. You just, you deal with it as it comes.
And one last note regarding yesterday's game, and you were talking about the CJ package. Was it the CJ package because he had the right skill set, or was it the CJ package because you were already down Xavier Woods and he was next man up or available on the bench to come in as the extra person in that package?
A great question. It was because of CJ's skill set as much as anything. Because it's a good idea, but if you don't have someone to do it, it's not as effective. It's no different than having a pocket passer and you want to run the option. You're not going to be able to do it. Some people might try, but it's not a good idea. Same thing goes with someone like CJ. In order to do something like that, you need someone that's got his skill set, and so it was a good fit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Considering what's been said about the defense and the players and the scheme, and you have to field questions about your job, any vindication about how you guys have played over the last few weeks?
I don't know if it's been vindication, but we've stayed the course and continued to work on the things, and the guys have responded really well and been positive the entire time. And this is really just the result of them putting in the time and effort and belief in what they're doing. It's practice is starting to show on the field, and that's the good thing about it.
Y'all have dealt with injuries all season long, so it seems like the roster is currently changing. But to be able to have the performance you had, despite losing Antoine Layton and Xavier the week before, what does that say about your team, and where are you most proud of what y'all were able to adjust?
Well, it's been a resilient group, and we've everyone this year, for whatever reason, aside from the COVID, there's been a tremendous amount of injuries, and so a lot of teams have, as we have had to go through a lot of roster changes along the way, and that's probably been as gratifying as anything to a lot of the not only players but coaches, is just the amount of guys that have been able to come in and fill a role, and you'd like to have, obviously we'd like to have won some more games, but at this point we're still in the hunt, so that's a good thing. But that's probably been the best thing about it. Like I said, just the ability for a lot of guys to have been able to step in and contribute and help us win.
And when you look at what Randy did yesterday, obviously he's been able to have some productive games, but missed quite a few games to suspension in his career. What do you think his ceiling is, or where do you see his potential if he were able to stay active for an entire season?
Look, if he could play like he did yesterday, week in and week out, although I say that and it sounds like he hasn't been playing well, he's been doing a real good job. I'm going to say he's probably been anywhere from 25 to 30 snaps a game up to this point. He might have had about 35, maybe, I think about 35 or so yesterday. I can't remember the exact number. But anyhow, he's a very athletic person. He's a good player. He's got a good nose for the ball. He's got a real good motor. He's an aggressive player at the point of attack. I think, he's got a lot to offer. Yesterday showed the potential that he has, but he's shown that along the way this season as well. That's not the first time it's come out of him. I just think the consistency in which it came out yesterday, and as many big plays, ball disruptive plays as he made yesterday, that's the thing that gets people's attention. The really good players in this league touch the ball on defense. There's not a really good player in the NFL that doesn't touch the ball. He might be an adequate player, but good players touch the ball. And that's what Randy did yesterday. And any player would tell you, if he touches the ball during the game, he feels good about his play. So, you can make 10 tackles, but if you make 3 tackles and you intercept the ball, believe me, I think about every player in the league would rather have or no tackles. If he gets an interception, that's a huge highlight.
We saw yesterday for the first time Jordan Lewis's usage at safety. How you just maybe discuss all that went into him being used there? How long in practice have you guys been quietly working on that? What went into identifying him as that guy who could come in an emergency situation, and how you thought he did?
Well, to his credit, guys have been going down quite a bit around here. To his credit, he didn't get a lot of reps on that going into that football game. We're unable to do that with trying to get some other people, ready for backing up roles as well. But in conversation with him, he felt very comfortable with it during the week, because we talked about it on Wednesday, that if the situation were to arise, we'd like him to be the first guy to go back, and without even blinking an eye, he said, "I'm good." And I named a couple coverages to him that, "Are you good with this one and that one?" And he just looked at me and said, "Look, just call it like you'd call it." He says, "I'm good to go." He says, so that's a real credit to him. Now, the one that he got beat on, he just let that, he wished he hadn't been back enough to really know to stay on top of the receiver, and he got out of position, and that's why it cost him the pass interference. But I think had it happened again, he'd have played it much better. But again, it would have been hard to kind of simulate that in practice anyhow, what did occur in the game. But as far as his willingness and ability to do it, I thought he stepped in and did a good job considering.
All right. Thanks for your time tonight, Mike. We appreciate it.